I'm going to talk a little bit about Alt VP. It's going to be a much longer video, and in fact, somewhere in the far future, there's a much longer video plan that will be on this topic, but here's the quick one for now. Alt VP, we're calling it scoring not coming from province, duchy, or state. Those are the cards that are in every game that provide points, and Alt VP, alternative VP, is the stuff that is not in every game. Base set has gardens, there's like victory point tokens that can get introduced in prosperity, lots of other things. Empires has a lot of it. In any case, I think there's two major categories of these things. One is these big points, like you look at something like, I don't know, a Duke or a Marchland, or even something like a collection, groundskeeper, a lot stronger, where these are things that when you look at them and you look at province, you start to really think like, this thing could end up being more points than province, if only I'm given enough time to build it up. And so the theory there is really like, if my opponent just starts going after provinces haphazardly, like, this gives me time to build this up, I'll be able to come back and overtake them. And this is a fine theory, but the reality is in most of the games you play, people are not going to do that because they are not terrible Dominion players. Like, they're going to see this Alt VP threat too, and they're going to, try to develop the deck that'll take advantage of it just as much as you will. And so what the reality really is that, like, if they're building the same deck that you are, that is going to, have a lot of good deck control, be drawing a lot, be able to handle all of this, maybe additional cards coming in, or, playing your collections, playing your groundskeepers, whatever, things are going to get low, very fast. And so, the reality is, like, if you're going to be scoring with these big points things, you need to kind of start investing in them very early, so that when you get to this point of, oh my gosh, the game's about to end, you actually have points rather than, getting however many duchies. If you're going after Duke, like, this is why Duke sucks. You get however many duchies, you get like, game's about to end, you start trying to score with Duke, you get one or two duchies, and suddenly your opponent is winning because they just bought a single province and are overtaking. You never actually scored with Duke. And so that's where some of these things, collection, of course, starts scoring very early, and quite a lot too. I mean, this is something that is actually going to be beating province, going to make it so that your opponent isn't just going to pile province, or pile something plus a province, or pile estates on you. And so you do need to be starting these things early when you're going to use them, such that you actually do have that time to accumulate points before, oh my gosh, the game's about to be over because we both built the same engine and the piles are low, and oh gosh, everything's just collapsing in on me, and I don't end up using the Alt VP anyways because I need to defend, province gives more points right now, etc. And so that's really what happens with the big ones, is a lot of these things don't actually end up being particularly good in the kinds of decks that people play. Instead, you do need to start them early if you're going to be doing them. There's also some Alt VP that we're going to call like small change. This is something more like nobles, something more like mill, a bunch of these landmarks from empires where, like, you get 2 VP for doing something, emporium. All of these appear, kind of low impact, right? Just because they aren't scoring that much. Like, they are obviously easily outscored by a province or two. But the thing with these is you usually do have to keep them somewhat close because, like, as we talked about in the big points case, like, most of the time your opponent, when they're a competent Dominion player, is going to be playing about the same deck as you. And so things are going to, go towards the end of the game with piles going out. And it's going to look really, really bad for you if you get towards this end of the game and you have lost the colonnade split 10-2, or you've lost the emporium split 4-1, where that's a 6 point, because suddenly what happens is you have this major point deficit to overcome when the game's about to end, and, like, you maybe can buy one province at that point, maybe you can buy 2 provinces, but your opponent, like, consider you're down 8, you buy 2 provinces to overcome that. Suddenly your opponent, just has to buy 1 province to overcome this very small lead that you took. And so if you keep that close, you don't have the problem. But if you don't keep it close, you could be facing really big problems towards the end of the game. And so, although these things appear low impact, you do have to kind of pay attention to them. You have a lot less room to be building as much as your opponent before you start greening, just because you already are facing this point deficit. And it appears low impact, but then when you're about to lose, gosh, it feels terrible that you didn't get all of these colonnade points or basilica points, etc. And so that's what often happens with a small change, is that although it feels like, hey, this doesn't do a whole lot, suddenly it becomes a really big deal if it doesn't split fairly evenly. Oftentimes it does, but it is something that you need to watch out for.